Everyone, welcome and thank you for joining today's Tax Digitalization Online Symposium. I hope that all of you are well and safe. My name is Ahu, and today I will be moderating this event. I am the Account Management and Business Development Director at SNI. Just shortly about SNI. SNI is an SAP partner company providing add-on solutions for e-invoicing, VAT reporting, and SAFTI requirements all around the world. Today, we will be talking about tax digitalization in all aspects with our special guests who will be sharing with us their experiences. Before we get started, I would like to go over some housekeeping items. There will be presentations and panel in each separate sessions. If you have questions during these sessions, please type into the Q&A part on the right side of the screen, and I will bring them up at the end of each presentation to be answered by the presenter. During the coffee break and also at the end of the event, during the Meet the Experts sessions, you will also find a chance to network with other attendees and also with our speakers. You may arrange video or audio calls with each other and at the virtual lunch area. As I mentioned at the beginning of my speech, today we have very special guests who are the tax professionals from the different parties, including tax authorities. To take Ksenia Sipek from Tax Authority in Croatia, Ministry of Finance will be with us. Also founder and chief technologist of Popo Technology, Jeff Peck, and also again CEO of TPA Global, Steve Hubriges will be with us. Instructor Lucian Jimenez, who is the CEO of Infosearch, and Bruno Serol will be also with us. Last but not least, during the last session, Ridwan Yiğit, our CCO, will be joining to us. And that session will be actually, we will be discussing certain topics. However, please be active also during that session and bring up all the questions where we will have the chance to have all the speakers all together and raise up your questions. Okay, let's then start the presentations. Our first speaker will be Steve. May I invite you, Steve, on the stage? He is the founding member and CEO of TPA Global, whose focus is on challenges corporates are faced with on the crossroads between finance, tax, and definitely IT. For more than 30 years, he has been working on different strategies such as transfer pricing strategy, value chain analysis. Okay, Steve, I see you now on the stage. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm leaving the words to you.
Thank you very much, Ahu. Good morning to all of you. My name is Steve Hubriges. I'm the CEO of TPA Global, a firm in 60 plus countries doing international tax, transfer pricing, and valuation, but also involved in tax and technology with around 40 technology partners like SNI, but also involved in 30 plus countries on tax litigation in case there's a dispute with tax authorities. Before I start the slide on the future of tax technology, which SNI asked me to comment on, I would like to give a little bit of the context where we are looking at. So I'm going back to the year 2013, when the OECD came to the conclusion that the tax authorities didn't have enough data to fight tax evasion and tax avoidance. So basically, that led to, as we all know, the BEPS reports in 2016. And at that point in time, they tried to create a level playing field in terms of data. So tax authorities had a lack of data, and when they asked the corporates to deliver that, that was a whole legal process. Since then, I think that in 2016, the first globally accepted universal data set was defined. That was a 150-page on how to fill out the data cells in a country-by-country report, and that sort of set the scene for what happened subsequently. So what happened? There was a CBCR, there was a SAFT, there was an e-invoice initiative, and I think Bruno and Lucien and certainly also Jeff will talk about the recently started consultation by the EU, where the EU also tries to uh, indicate that all the country-specific initiatives on e-invoicing might lead to different standards, and is already issued a consultation period where the EU has asked in a public consultation whether the EU should get involved to get a more harmonized standard for Europe. We're also expecting EVAT to step into the plate, and then DAC 6 is subsequently. What does that mean? That this whole historical context, it means there's a lot of data, but there's also a lot of regulatory framework built around tax. So tax becomes a regulatory area to act in, almost like a bank. A bank has a license to operate from the central bank. Corporates these days, and certainly in the future, will have to deal with this regulatory framework the tax authorities are imposing on corporates, almost like a license to operate. So if I look at the first slide here, it's a very simple slide where I say the actors and the governance, and this is not different from tax authorities dealing with tax relevant data than corporates. The actors and the governance is we have certified people. More and more, the certification becomes an issue. Jeff Beck of Pow Taxology will also speak a few words on that. We have certified processes, so CBCR, but also e-invoicing. There's a whole host of manuals which say if you do it this way, you're certified, and obviously the blueprint of those certified processes are being captured in different software packages, where the software packages typically get ISO certification in place. Why is that? Because they need to be a fair reflection of what the certified process issued by the tax authorities really entails. By the way, there is a universal certified process which is also ISO certified. For example, a company like H&M has an ISO certificate on its transfer pricing process, and even published that online on its website. Well, what does this mean? It means the certified people, process, and technology are going to deal with tax relevant data streams, and that means taxpayers will have to cater. That process will cater for the taxpayers to deal with their tax compliance cycle, their tax risk management, and the communication to stakeholders, where just talked about country by country communication to stakeholders also means the public country by country reporting is due in the year 2023, already indicating companies to deal with that. On top of that, you see tax authorities. Tax authorities have a slightly different how do you say it, output. They validate data from taxpayers, and they give a validation also to third parties. So they collect a lot of data from third parties. The validation and outlier analysis happens already more and more digital. One example was a transfer pricing package shared with the Chinese tax authorities. An IDR, a so-called information data request, came back from the system, from an algorithm with some machine learning in the back. Within 5 hours, there was a questionnaire back to the multinational. So this is the new scene we're looking at in a data-driven world of taxes, where in essence, the workflows for tax authorities and taxpayers are not all that different. So it's very much leading into a co-compliance type of model. If we move to the next slide, for corporates to make sure that they are on par with this whole trend of digital transformation, they need to secure what I call a tax vision 2025. So how mature in digital transformation do you want to be in the year 2025? If you had 300 projects today, you need to apply criteria to get you to that tax vision 2025, which is loaded with a stage of maturity in terms of the 100 tax workflows, how many of them need to be digitally transformed, either from the in-house perspective towards the communication of the outside world, but more and more by tax authorities who demand digital data packages to be shared with them almost on a real-time basis. However, a lot of challenges in the in-house tax department is also you need a project and a focus on the return on investment, because like all things in corporates, everything has a price and an investment. So the in-house tax teams are really making and preparing plans to achieve this tax technology transformation plan with an adequate return on investment, and share that with the CFO or the budget holder to get that accepted internally, because they're competing with commercial projects with also an ROI attached to it. This is leading to the next slide. So how does a tax vision 2025 look like? This is a little bit a messy picture, but it starts, and this is very crucial for any digital transformation project. You need to inspire the people, you need to define the processes, and especially certified processes, and you need to see technology as a facilitator. If you do approach it the other way around, 80% of those projects are a miserable failure. So here we start talking about the work spot of the professionals. The second point is the traffic controls. That's a defined process, a certified process in place with planning and monitoring before we start looking at the whole data flow. So you see number 3, the tax data lake feeds dirty data into a tax engine. Under 4, the tax data engine gets the data standardized to code, the tax code definition by using a tax content engine, which does, for example, VAT determination on and VAT rates. Then this clean data feeds into reporting, and then you get to point 6, where the reporting tier is what we call the upstream, is filing a data set in a certain format with a digital mailbox with the tax authorities who, as we saw in the previous pictures, validates the data set and completeness and accuracy, and gives a digital signal back, but also exchanges this data more and more. For example, DAX 6 mandatory reporting or Pillar 2 mandatory reporting, which is coming up, will be exchanged but between tax authorities for sure. So this is a tax vision, very high level, but it gives you an idea of what steps to take and what configuration to look for. If we are looking at the next slide, then the question is a little bit, how much savings do you expect on a process like that? And one element which beyond people, process, and technology we already addressed, which is the key of the matter, and which in-house tax departments spend a disproportionate number of hours on, is the data. The data, unstructured data, structured data, all fed into the tax data lake, sometimes using a data refinery to get to a nicely packaged and labeled data sets in a tax data warehouse, where you could visualize you have transactional data pulled out, and transactional data could be used for DAX 6 VAT, transfer pricing, and customs using one data request to the text data warehouse. You can also imagine you pull from the text data warehouse cumulative data for tax accounting, which you're going to be using also to fill your country by country, as well as your Pillar 2 reporting in the near future. So this is a question, a critical question. Are you following a push model where you really start from the top and push things down based on the requests and the demand at the bottom, where you know if the underlying data structure changes, your connectors don't work anymore, or are you in the next phase, the next generation of tax technology, also trying to apply a pool model where the tax department just throws SQL queries or even Google queries if they're accurate enough to the tax data lake or tax data warehouse to get the relevant data out of the system. I think the push model at this moment sometimes is only leading to a tax automation savings and benefit. And automation, in my terminology, is an incremental improvement on the processes and the people, and that incremental improvement might not have a high enough ROI to be met with a lot of frills by the CFO. If you go for a full digital transformation, a combination of a push model on data and a pull model on data is going to be probably the smartest way in your roadmap to your Tax Vision 2025. Okay, so this is I think the data. It's not out of the way. In reality, we see, and that's the next slide, we see a lot of people being challenged by the huge time they spent on getting the data, cleaning the data, reformatting the data, and getting the data ready for the variety of tax filings. This is a picture which gives you the future of tax in its bare essence. If you distinguish the single source of data, so you get dirty data in your administration, you clean it up to clean data, and ultimately you file it to the right bottom into a digital mailbox with the tax authorities. The whole cleaning up of the data happens based on a normative framework. So it is sourced by tax rules and legislation. That means the single source of data, it becomes a fairly autonomous flow without, in this particular case, any human intervention. The only thing you see happening is the arrow with the reporting, where the arrow in the reporting says mission accomplished. We got the data, we cleaned the data, we filed the data according to the normative framework. That means the single source of information, which is call it the interface with the humans, just says mission accomplished. In today's world, we still have compliance trackers, which give you actionable insight, and a tool like Power BI to see what the percentage of completion is. That still will be relevant, but in the future, a lot of the human intervention will be orchestrated out of the single source of data, but not require a lot of human intervention anymore. So this is really pushing yourself to the limit and saying what's in the Tax Vision 2025 by ambition level. Am I already there, or am I still locked in with people cleaning data by the tax department 80% of the time, which means you hardly have any time to do the risk assessment and to do the outlier analysis, which would be a much more useful spend of your time. So with that, I'm moving to the big question for a lot of people in the audience. What's in it for you? So the next question sort of is addressing what's in it for your career. We move to the next slide, please. Recently, um, a few companies have launched a belt system. Maybe you know the belt system from martial arts. You have a green belt, ultimately have a black belt, but some of you in corporates also know the belt system from Six Sigma and from getting, for example, your supply chain streamlined by using green belt and black belt professionals. The difference between the typical academic training and systems like this is it's not so much about the knowledge, but it's very much about how many projects did you run and how experienced are you bringing a successful digital transformation in place, putting it in place. So what you see here is a yellow belt, an orange belt, a light and a dark green and a black belt. What does this do? It gives you a new career, a tax technology specialist career. The focus ultimately, if you look at the black belt, will be you would like to be a black belt in coding. You would like to be a black belt in forensic accounting or data analytics, or you want to be a black belt in um, the whole tax data architecture and data management, which we addressed before. So there's plenty of roles for everyone in the room to look out for, but it obviously means you need to get more flight hours under your belt to really make that next jump into your career. Next slide is just giving you a high level introduction to the course overview, but also what the yellow belt entails. It pretty much introduces you to the terminology used in the tax technology specialists, and why do I need it, and how do I use it? But also, as you can imagine, how do you construe and how do you create your own tax technology transformation plan, the 3T plan, as you see here on the slide. So it's basically taking you on a learning journey to become a relevant future tax professional. So with that, I think we sort of set the scene, and I'm really looking out for discussions in the breakouts, but also with the audience. I'm giving the word back to you, Ahu, for maybe questions or comments.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for your presentation. Actually, it is very well known that busy days are waiting for us with those, let's say, new rules, new regulations in the tax digitalization. Just let me check the questions, but anyhow, we will have this session as you said. I don't see any questions, but I just see the nice good morning message. Thank you again, everybody. Thank you, Steve, for your section. We will be at the end again together for that panel part. See you then. Until that time, thank you again for the presentation. Thank you. And now we will be going the second session, which will be the updates on the reform of the generalization of electronic e-invoicing, specifically in France. And the details will be given in the session. However, as you know, in 24, the e-invoicing will be in place in France. And now I would like... I hope everybody can continue to hear and see me. Now we are together with dear Bruno Sarul, and also Lucien Jimenez will join, I think. In the meanwhile, Bruno, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we don't see you, but however we can.
Okay, I'm gonna plug in the camera.
Okay, thank you. Hi, dear
Hello,
Bruno.
everybody.
Thank you for joining. And actually, let me shortly introduce you. I will give the words to you back. With 40 years of experience in the tax administration. By the way, is Lucien also in?
I don't know because we're not in the same city.
Okay.
I'm in south of France. It was supposed to be connected, but I don't know.
Okay.
He's in Strasbourg. I'm in Avignon.
Okay,
Yes.
let's hope he can fix the problems and shortly join us. Bruno, hi again. And today you will be talking about the electronic invoicing in France.
Yeah.
Actually, I can say these are two major countries. Everybody has eye on them, let's say France, Germany. And that would be very valuable if you enlighten the audience what's going to happen, what
Yeah.
are the differences of that well-known Y model of France going to implement. I think it will be very interesting session. And please, thank you.
It's supposed to be the end of the talks is supposed to be at 25 past 10, I think. It's just to challenge the timing.
Okay.
Or half past 10. How long do you have to present?
20 minutes. You are, by the way, now on air?
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah,
So
great.
let's go.
Okay. I'm muting myself and leaving the stage to you.
Okay.
Okay.
So hello to everybody. So my name is Bruno Sorel. I'm the CEO of a company which is called Infosearch. And we are specialized in certification of software, training and diagnostic for invoicing and reporting. But to make it very short, because we just have got 20 minutes, what you have to know is that the reform has been confirmed by the French government with a little delay. It was supposed to start the 1st of January 2023, but it will start the 1st of July 2024 in France. For issuing invoice, it will start with large companies like, I don't know, Orange, Renault, Veolia, etc. And afterwards, 6 months later for mid-size and for all companies in France in the 1st of January 2026. But for receiving electronic invoices, it will start the 1st of July 2024. Just to shortly analyze the market, there are about 4 million and of companies in France. And let's speak a bit about the volume. It's over 20 billion of invoices in B2B and per year. So there were publication of requirements. You can find them. You will have the link here on the French portal with a few updates. It's called external specifications. And so the first publication was in September. The second one was in December. And there is a very one is supposed to be published in the coming days. So to make it very short, what is the key point? The key point is this. First of all, France decided to choose for a Y model, which means that there is not only a public platform. Any company can choose to send and receive invoices through the public portal or a private platform. And there are two obligations. The first one is called in the French law the e-invoicing obligation, which is sending and receiving B2B domestic invoicing. And the second one, which has to be really highly considered, which is the e-reporting obligation for international B2B invoices, B2C sales, and the follow-up of payment. So that's really the key core principle in France. And this is what are the four, maybe Lucien joined me, I don't know, because I don't
Yes, I'm here, dear Bruno.
Oh, great. So I started.
Yes.
Maybe you can take the lead to make the following of the presentation about the objectives. if it's okay to you.
Of course. As Bruno told you, this reform has issued the electronic invoicing obligation, and of course the transmission of e-reporting data, and it's an ongoing process. It starts with the Article 153 of the Finance Act 2022. After that, we had another text 195 in 2021, and this famous ordinance that Bruno told about. And what's very interesting about the key figures, you see, we have about in France 4 million companies. It means companies that are paying VAT, and that this company will be concerned with the B2B relation. And you see directly 300 large companies. That's not very high, but you have 3.8 million very small companies. So the problematic of the volume per year, of the different kind of invoice also, and also the software that are used by this large different kind of companies make it a little bit difficult during the work groups and during the different process of making a semantic model to find something easy for everyone. So that's one of the point in that you have to consider with this French reform. But we are positive and of course optimistic about the issue of this reform.
Okay, thank you, Lucien.
Please, you're welcome.
I'm going to show you, to sum up, a kind of overview of the wide design model.
Yes.
So to make it the most simple I can, when a company is going to sell something, it will have to provide a structured format of the invoice and to send it either to a private platform, which is here, or to the public platform. They won't propose the same services. The private platforms will have a higher level of interoperability and complementary services. But what is important to notice that a part of the data of the invoice, of all invoices, will be sent to the French administration. And on the other side, for the buyer, he will have to collect his invoices either on the private platform he chose or on the public portal. Two, what is important in France, 3 formats on a standard way will be allowed: UBL, CWI, and Facturix. We're going to speak a little bit later about that, but to make it more complete, and I will leave the wording to Lucien. This is a complete flow cartography on today's perspective. And just to continue before Lucien can continue, there is a very consultation process in France with over 60 workshops with the administration.
Exactly. And this little bit complex flow of cartography can show you the importance of of course, the following the life cycle of the e-invoice, and also the needs of traceability. And what you have to understand, that we try to show through this different kind of flow of the invoice, the different kind of nature of invoice. So what's very important, you see, you have number 1 and number 2 in the flow of invoice, and especially it's the flow 2. If you can see the flow 2, the flow 2 is the flow of in this standard format, UBL, C2Z, or FactorX. It's, so to say, the complete invoice with something with we have seen more than 250 fields, different fields in the semantic model. It's the complete invoice. And what's important also to understand is that the flow 1, the invoice extraction for the tax authority, it's only an extraction, and this extraction, it's about 40, 50 fields also. This extraction is made by the public portal when the flow 2 flows to the public portal, or the private platform, what we call in French PDP, plateforme de dématérialisation partenaire, partner platforms, could we say. And after that, you have the different other flows. For example, we are speaking about the B2C invoice format, or the e-reporting flow 10. And in the flow 10, you see, you have different kind of e-reporting. It's what we spoke about just before. For example, the B2B International 10.1 or B2C invoice non-standard. And by the way, maybe something interesting and special is this difference between the operator of dematerialization and really the platform. And we will see it a little bit later, because when you want to become a private platform partner, you have to follow a process of agreement. So maybe we will not pass the rest of the time reading this flow cartographies, just to give you a short idea concerning the model of and the different types of flow that we have to manage in this Y model.
So yeah, to just continue, as Lucien said, the content of the structured format is based on the standardized normalization called EN 16931. And it's just to give you a kind of overview of it. So it's containing and embedding specific rules regarding format and business rules. And as Lucien said, in flow 1, there will be about 40 to 50 fields to set up and to fulfill. When we say that, it means with just one line of invoice. But what will receive the buyer will be the structured format of the invoice. So it means it has to be complete with all the content of the invoice. So this we won't speak so much about. And maybe Lucien, you can say a word to us regarding a bit more the private platform.
Yes. It's the slide. Okay, this one. Okay, the private register platform. Yeah, yes. That's for the moment. Maybe you have to know that we expect something like 30 private platforms. Maybe we will have more, maybe less. It's not really 100% sure, but what we know is that there will be a focus on the audit of these platforms. So they have to fulfill a lot of course, requirements. especially they have to be to have an agreement to get an agreement from the tax authority, and this agreement will be valid for 3 years. 3 years. And after 1 year, this private platform will have to issue a conformity report, which will be based on business control, inner control of the platform, and the different workshop concerning specifically this platform are always on the study, and it's an ongoing process.
So, to what is important to know that the platform, they will be the only one allowed to update the directory of the company with the public portal, and
Exactly.
to deal with the life cycle of payment and all the life cycle of the invoice, from issuing it to be paid. And what you can see on this little figure is that the public platform will offer a lower service in the interoperability process than the private one.
Yeah. Just something I forgot to say. Of course, for security reason, tax authority decided that this platform have to be ISO 27001, and especially also Secnum Cloud, which is a specification, a certification issued by ANSI, which is our national agency for security of the data.
Okay. So afterwards, there is a whole topic about the directory of the company, which is at the minimum by the fiscal idea, but can be really divided regarding the importance of the company. But this is still under discussion. To be very honest, I think we are at about 25, 85, 90% of the fulfillment of the requirement on today's perspective. And afterwards, we have to consider e-reporting, which is quite important in the obligation of electronic invoicing. And as you can see, the e-reporting flow is concerns either international B2B, the whole sales and payment of B2C, and when you are the buyer for international B2B invoices. That's why there are so many flows in the figure we presented. And there is a special focus that for the B2C process, sales, for retailers, coffee restaurants, shops, etc., where they will have to send cumulative data to the platform, which leads to the quality of the data, the integrity of the data, and the non-fraudulent part of it that will be sent to the platform. And if you make a focus on B2C, what is, but I'm sure it's all over the countries, it's really, the two keywords is diversity of it and heterogeneity of it through automaton, supermarket, etc. And all of those companies, they will have to fulfill this obligation, which is a majority of the companies in France. Means even a flower shop or with one person working there will have to fulfill this obligation. So it's a huge issue to really fulfill it on time for everybody. Tu veux que je passe où, Lucien? Juste.
Je sais pas combien de temps il nous reste. On a encore 5 minutes.
It's
We
5
have
minutes.
10 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay,
Yeah,
5 minutes.
I'm
Thank
also
you. Thank
improving
you,
my
Ahmed.
French in between.
Wonderful. Wonderful. 5 minutes. So we have a little bit time to speak about the different other slides. Yeah, this one is good. The B2C data frequency semantic. Okay. What can we say about that? Data might be sent to the platform, online recordings through the portal, of course, impact on B2C, and also something about the national platform, what we call the plateforme publique de facturation. They have also a service, archive service for the data. So, for example, when a small company will send the invoice in Factor X, for example, to the national platform, this platform will archive this invoice. Recently, we saw also that what will be the invoice to be archived, it's for the issuer, it's effectively the invoice that will be sent to the platform. So it means that all the audits, for example, the tax audits, will use this invoice as the justification and the document to archive, the document to use to make a VAT deduction, for example. So it's very important. And the other point is that for the company which receives the invoice, it's the same. It's the invoice that they will get from the platform. And what is very nice in this Y model is that we try to have this service, this public service of archiving.
Yeah.
But it's really a new service for the companies.
To be added to, if you may allow me, Solution, what is important in France is for B2C software, it's mandatory that they are certified.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, to say it. We have a special law in 2018. Which is very strong and which says that all the software have to be certified, and Infosearch has here the NF 525.
The subject that rises up for the reform was the quality of the data, and to avoid that a lot of invoices will be rejected due to a lack of mandatory informations. So there is at the moment a huge consideration about the quality of the software providing the data, because without qualified data, the dematerialization process won't reach its aims. So this is really very important.
It's very important because we hope that we will not have in France something that exists in some country. For example, you will send an official invoice to the platform, public or private, and after that, this invoice will have a lot of difficulties, will be rejected, has to be changed. Some companies could have the temptation to create underground invoices and exchange between the buyer and the seller. This double flow underground movement of invoice. that would be a pity and would be something very very negative, not only for the environment point of view, but also for the simplification for the companies. So what is very important is the quality of the data, as Bruno said, because if you have a good quality of the data, you will have as less as possible rejection and errors. So, of course, certification is something fantastic to make a normalization of the data and the quality of the data in order to avoid this kind of rejection errors.
So I know it's time. So it was very hard. It was a pleasure to be with you, really, but a bit hard to sum up such a work in 25 minutes. So we are sorry if it's incomplete. We try to provide you the best summarized information. But if you want to have more details, we will be present at 11:30, I think, in the round table, or you can contact us anyhow anyway. I think we fulfill
Thank
the
you.
time. So
It is
Thank you
okay,
very
okay,
much.
dear Bruno, dear Lucian. Thank you. It was a very good presentation, and I feel like everybody is really curious what's going to happen in France. And it seems that we will be talking also about it a lot in the upcoming months and also especially next year. We have one question in the chat box I have seen. It is actually from Mr. Werner. The question is: the reform was already postponed a few times. Is it likely to take place according to the current calendar, or could it be postponed again?
it's supposed not to be postponed.
Exactly.
No, I think they already delayed it for 18 months.
18 months. Yeah.
And I think it would start really. But who knows? Well, that's it's very hard for us to speak for the state, really.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
really, we think it will start. Maybe with maybe there are some use cases. They will maybe the administration will say this will be fulfilled in 1 year later or so on, because there are a lot of use cases in the voicing process. A lot really. When you really analyze it in detail, when it's just a seller and a buyer, everything is quite easy. It's every time you will have a third party involved, then it starts to be more complex, like a marketplace, for instance. For instance.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me check if there is further more questions. Anyhow, actually, after your session, I will be inviting Jeff back to the stage. And after his session, there will be also a 45 minutes cafe break, which means you will be also taking place on the tables, and the people who would like to check in detail with you can come to those tables and ask you directly the questions. We are. I have one question, but it's a general question. Can we get the presentation later?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I
yeah,
will
yeah.
send it. Yeah, I will send it to you because it's more detailed. It's more
Mhm,
detailed. Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, for sure. I will send it to you.
And also, the whole symposium will be recorded, so that you can also go through the presentations itself.
Okay.
Thank you, dear both. Then it was really helpful and very fruitful session. Thanks again.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye
Bye.
bye. Bye bye. Hi, hello, Jeff. It is a pleasure having you again on stage together with us. Uh,
It's great to be here. Thank you, Ahu.
Thank you, thank you. And I always like your session names, Fighting Fire with Fire. It seems we will have a very interesting presentation. Before giving the stage to you, actually, most of the people, I assume they know you. He is the founder of the Popo Textology, and also he's an important person to me because he was also my teacher as a textologist. trying to be and continuing to learn always. Today, I think you will be talking about the effects of the technology and digitalization on taxation. So
Indeed,
then,
yes.
yeah, then stage is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen. Oh. Okay. Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah, we see.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for the introduction, Ahu. I thought the previous presentation was very interesting. What's going on in France? For me, with a digital background, I would ask all kinds of questions about what does that look like from behind? What does the data look like? And in fact, that's the main topic that I'm planning to talk about. That we feel there's a growing crisis today in the ability of the tax profession to really cope with this digitalization, all the other digitalizations going on in the industry. And in fact, it's having something of a negative effect. It's eroding value propositions of the tax professions, potentially hurting careers and certainly making life hard. And this is sad because digitalization is actually an opportunity for us. And I will tell you why that is a little bit later. So today we're actually going to be introducing something brand new in this space, something that's never been done before. But before I get into that, let's just do a quick recap. So it's no secret there is unprecedented change going on in the industry. There's new challenges, there's new needs. A lot of these are mounted on a digital chassis, if you like. And that's in addition to the regular ERP and other tech concerns that people have to deal with in their day jobs. Also, I better warn you with these slides, you might have difficulty reading all of them and listening to me at the same time. We got a short time here, got about 20 minutes. So it's already come up. Please ask for the slides at the end of the symposium and you can receive a copy to read them at your leisure. Okay, so the big question is, are you ready? Are you, as a tax professional, are you ready for this? And the general answer is not really, but it's not quite the same for everybody. For example, recently we spoke to somebody, senior tax person, who was only invited into a major ERP shift project a year after it had started. And in fact, his IT group had chosen his tax engine for him. He wasn't involved at all. Now he's trying to catch up. Another person I've been working with for some time is potentially going to be excluded altogether from their initiative because it's being run from another country and they're not trusted where they are, whatever that means. So, and the general history over the last 20 years is that we as tax professionals have acted as SMEs, so subject matter experts on these technology areas, and we're supposed to give our requirements. And again, what does that really mean? And then we only get invited again towards the end of the project to verify, to test, and then we don't always necessarily know what we're looking at. And the general outcome has been that these solutions are not really fit for purpose. And this problem is being exacerbated when you look at what the tax authorities are doing. And it's making it all about the data. It's no longer just about processes, it's about the data. So it's getting more imperative all the time. And there's just not much confidence at the moment that after these projects are completed, that the tax piece is really under control and being fully supported. And that damages tax's standing. In simple terms, as far as I'm concerned, it's not acceptable for us as a tax industry. So I would like you to ask yourself authentically, how deeply are you stuck in a defensive position with all this technology and digitalization? And is what's going on today really good enough for you? And do you think you are missing out on a major career opportunity? And by the way, we absolutely think this is a huge career opportunity. Steve referred to that as well in the first presentation. I should just point out at this time that it's not the same for everybody. About 1 in 10 of the people or the companies that we talk to are actually pretty okay with the way things are going with their technology right now. But we've also noticed that it's usually always for the same reasons. And that is because they've managed to bring together a small but talented team that have worked together for a while. They've got some good automation results and they're managing to stay on top of it, just about. But we've also noticed that those people can never really tell you how they did it. So that means they're not really future proofed. They're not fully transformed yet, at least by one definition of transformation. And they suffer from key man risk or key woman risk. And that is when the team breaks up, the organization is left exposed because those skills have left them. So not fully future proofed yet. And that for us, it's logical because technology is complex. It's just not perfect either. You know, it's not plug and play. It's different. It changes the way things work. So it's no surprise there's a disconnect, but it's also very powerful. And the first thing that anybody does, for example, when somebody gets in a high powered racing car for the first time, is try and avoid a high speed crash. So it's exactly the same for technology. The trouble gets worse when some people think they've actually got some ideas how the enterprise technology actually works, and they think they can do it. I don't know why, maybe because they figured out a few things on their smartphone, but it doesn't equate. It's not consumer electronics. And in fact, the Geek Gap calls this magical thinking. So for 7 years, we as Popo Taxology have now been looking at this answer. I know, like Ahu says, many of you have already been following us. And it turns out that much of the answer we have been looking for is there all along. It's used in the words every day. Transformation, agile, data. You hear these things mentioned, but what do they really mean? And if you can figure out what each one of them is, how do you put the overall puzzle together? That's where the limitations are. So for example, a lot of people will have heard people process technology. Steve mentioned it earlier. And this is another slide you're going to have to read later. Sorry for that.
I think Jeff has connection problems. Just give a couple of minutes to him. Okay, he's reconnecting. In the meanwhile, also everybody, I'm answering the question. Everybody attended will get the link for the presentation. And I got the confirmation he's reconnecting. I think we are back. Until Jeff reconnects, after this session, we will have a break for 45 minutes, and you may have the chance also to take places on the tables and reach the presenters directly. I'm texting with him. He has some connection problems. In the meanwhile, feel free to text your question for sure. And maybe I give some information to you about the upcoming webinars. Next week, we will have a webinar about Saudi e-invoicing next Wednesday. As you know, Saudi Arabia has started at the end of the last year with the first steps of the e-invoicing. It was no communication, however, only creating the document itself in electronic way. However, at the end of this year, they will also have the mandated e-invoicing, the market. Then we will. Jeff, you are back.
I'm yeah,
Okay, okay.
sorry about that. My laptop just decided to freeze up, and I had to reboot it.
Okay, okay. I'm going away again.
Okay, so I'm going to represent. Sorry for this. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear
just
you. We see you
okay.
also.
I'm just having to log in again here and get my presentation back. Sorry about that. Okay. Can we see the presentation again?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let me just run through. So, after the car crash, so let's start with people, process, and technology. I'll start here anyway. I'm not sure where you lost me, but we'll start with people, process, and technology. And I was just saying that this is one slide again. There's a lot of information on here. Please read this one after if you want to get more of the detail. So, I was saying that for people, process, and technology. It's another phrase that everybody's heard of. It's on everybody's lips. But it turns out that for the whole to work, the people, process, and technology to work together, the people have to change. They can't necessarily be today's people. They need to be upskilled. They need a new mindset. They need to be managed differently, and they need to be organized differently. We've also heard it said in our industry that the technology is not good enough, it's not cheap enough, and it's too difficult to implement. Well, that's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily the technology's fault. The technology is just the technology. And without the people, who we just talked about, the right kind of people, the technology doesn't work very well. It's the people that make the difference. In fact, in a recent survey that we did, we had 46% of people agree with us that the technology will start to work better once the people understand it better. And then, of course, once the people and the technology change, the processes change. Again, another slide I'm not going to walk you through. Please look at it afterwards. But in terms of processes, we put something out there called the four taxology values, which really impact new ways of working as part of people, process, and technology. So please look at that one at your leisure. But now the other two pillars, we mustn't forget data, of course. Excuse me here a second. We mustn't forget data, of course. Data is really the mother lode. So as oil was to the energy industry in the 20th century, so data is to the tax industry in the 21st century. And of course, the main reason for that is because that's exactly what the tax authorities are doing, as both Steve and Bruno mentioned. So, which means the obligations, the way the obligations work change as well. So it used to be that the obligations, how much tax you pay, was dependent on what you filled in your boxes. You might get audited, and if you weren't compliant, you might get a fine or something like that. Going forward, it's going to be what the data says is going to determine how much, what your tax position is. And if the data is not right, you could be asked to cease trading. And yes, there are a couple of examples of that happening, either cease trading or stop paying vendors. There's examples of that already happening. Now, that obviously puts tax way more in the spotlight than previously. So it's really important that going forward, tax professionals get a handle on the data that they're sending to tax authorities and understand it at least as well as the tax authorities do. So you can stand, you can stand your position. And if you can't, you risk your standing being eroded with your company. Lastly, the fifth pillar, which really says you're not alone, which is just as well because nobody can do this alone. The knowledge area is just too great. There's too much to know. There's too much to do. So it's about your community. And within a community, of course, important skills are communication, socialization, the ability to influence and persuade people within that community. And here, and this has traditionally been a problem area, is persuading people to make foundational investments in technology, but that's changing. We've got two new advantages. First of all, well, as we've already said, the digitalization that the tax authorities are doing, which is actually not forcing a change to the structure of the tax function in companies. So as it is at the moment, you can see it's written in red right in the middle of the slide. You have the opportunity to do corrections before you send your information to the tax authorities. But going forward, that changes. With live reporting, e-invoicing, and the such like, you have to have your data right first time at source, and you only get queried afterwards if it's correct or not. And the second thing that's to our advantage, it's that nobody's in denial anymore. The inevitability of digitalization has now been accepted by just about everybody. Senior leadership and stakeholders just tend to be sitting there waiting for a better story on how to handle it. Some have had their fingers burnt in the past. But we are definitely at a tipping point right now. I heard somebody use the phrase the other day, which I thought was quite amusing, which is that digitalization is the Hotel California of tax. And that is, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Anyway, what most people want, what they want most of all is to get visibility and control over this digital space that is now part of their tax domain, and to future-proof themselves against future changes and future-proof their stakeholders and their companies as well, and achieve this in a manner that actually makes sense and actually works. Like I said, we've spent a decade working on this problem, or I have. The company is now 7 years old. And we came up with a response, and we validated its value in the real world, and we call it the Smart Tax Technology Program. And this has proved valuable with a number of graduates, quite a few of which are here today, Ahu being one of them, of course. However, it turns out, and it's no surprise, that this is fairly deep stuff. It's non-trivial. It's a journey. There's no silver bullet. And to be honest, there never was going to be a silver bullet to learning this. So we're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. It's going to take time, but it's also a big opportunity. Tax professionals, why is it a big opportunity? Because tax professionals deal with information. It's their raw material. And the clue is in the name, information technology. You've now got your data is represented on a platform that gives you far more leverage than you had on the pre-digital era. So, this gives you a much better opportunity to use that information to augment your value proposition. And of course, the opposite occurs if you cannot make this happen, because there's already new expectations out there about tax data. So how did we choose to do this? Well, the first thing is we decided we were not going to teach everyone IT. There was no time, and it was not going to work anyway. There's already plenty of ITers out there in the world, and they're part of the answer. They're not the whole answer. So we came up with what we call taxology, which is mastering the digital world without having to learn IT. The best way to describe this is to liken it to a building site. So let's say we are building a mansion for a fussy rich person, and they want quite a complicated mansion. Now, in this, I would say we don't really want to be, as tax professionals, the plumbers, electricians, bricklayers, although we need those people, of course. They're the equivalent of our ITers or tax technologists today. The person that we want to be is the taxologist or the architect, right? They understand what the other people are doing and they oversee the domain, and they talk to the rich person, if you like. They're the mastermind behind it. Another way of thinking about it is that you are a maestro conducting your orchestra, which is why we call it taxology. And the people who understand taxology, we call them taxologists. And taxologists, just like architects and maestros, are highly skilled people. And therefore, we had another problem. We needed, sorry, just excuse me again here for a second. We needed something where the starting point was for everyone. So it doesn't matter who you are today. If you're a tax manager, lawyer, accountant, if that's your background, even if you're a tax technologist, learned that job yourself over the last few years, or you're in tax operations, or you work on projects, or maybe you've even got one of the new roles like a tax data modeler, tax data analyst, or tax data miner. In other words, we had to start with today's tax professionals working in today's tax departments. Also, we had to start with a vision. If you don't have the right vision, you don't get to the right places where you want to be with technology. So you had to be able to describe a landscape, which meant we had to make tax professionals digitally aware, tech savvy, and data literate as a minimum. Not necessarily digitally enabled, just digitally aware at this stage. They need to understand what's going on in technology, digitalization, and transformation. The real story, not the lip service that's so common today. It needed to be practical, accessible, low cost, and personal. Our students constantly tell us the piece they like most about working with us is the personal interaction. So we needed to keep that. It also needed to be low risk and non-disruptive. So we didn't want to go out there and upset any corporate apple carts. They can be quite sensitive to change, but it still had to be effective. And of course, it has to fit in with people's busy schedules. I know people have day jobs. Ultimately, it had to be about you, the tax professional. So here is what we came up with. And we are calling it the Taxology Community Bootcamp. And this is how it works. So it's still based on smart tax technology, the program, but we are doing it with communities. So a maximum size of 20 people. I'll explain what that looks like in a second. When you sign up for it, you get immediate access on day one to all the materials. That is all the 5 written parts that you saw in the last screenshot in the last slide. There's, in addition to that, there's 2 bonus parts and 2 videos. Then when we go through them, the personal interaction piece is 6 shared evening sessions, 1 for each of the 5 parts of the program, and the final 6th one, which is for follow-up. There's usually people who ask some questions. We do a little bit more extra research, some discussion, and we also talk about next steps. Those sessions will start at 4 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. European time. There will be opportunity, first of all, to ask questions at the start of those sessions. Then we will present you some additional materials, which are for reinforcement and also give you the very latest updates on taxology. As you can imagine, it is moving all the time. Everything's changing very quickly. And at the end, there's usually some time for some discussion and maybe some opportunities to bring up some of your specific challenges that you're facing. And by the way, between the sessions, you can expect your self-study piece to take you about 3 to 5 hours a week. But the community sessions, they will be scheduled on your calendar for 3 hours, but basically they finish when the last person leaves, although I get a little tired after 3 hours. 3 hours is about our upper limit. Then you need to pick a start date. You can see there we have 6 predefined dates. The first one at the top there is starting on the 4th of April, and you can see that is a Monday. So if you sign up for that one, you will, from either 4 or 5 p.m., depending which time zone you're in, from Monday, 4th of April for the next 6 Mondays, you're committed to these sessions. We do record them, so if you miss one, you can get the recording afterwards, but that's the way it works. And as you can see, there's six opportunities there to sign up. There's also a Wednesday group starting on the 20th of April and a Thursday group starting on the 5th of April. And then the whole cycle starts again on the 6th of May. The last one we've currently scheduled, actually the last one should say group 5 and group 6. There's a typo. But group 6, the last one currently scheduled, starts on the 16th of June, after which we'll take a summer break. So that's how they work. Now, the normal price for this, $647. But for today and for day only, we've introduced a symposium price of $497. Now, we don't feel that that is out of anybody's reach to sign up right now. If you had to try and get this yourself, it potentially would take you years of study, years of trial and error, potentially many thousands spent on all kinds of training courses. And at the end of it, there'll still be no guarantee that you've put the whole story together. But here you could buy today, get the materials tomorrow, and be available on the 1st of April for the start of your session. The message is here, it's time to get started now. The digital revolution is not going to wait for you, and it's also not going to stop. So, are we ready? Well, yes, we can be. What are the benefits that you're going to get? Well, the first thing you're going to get is the vision that I talked about. How is the digital world, how is it supposed to work? And also describe some of the pitfalls and mistakes that people make today. You can call it, if you like, digital intuition for tax professionals. It's legitimizing technology within the tax world. It's reviving, growing the credibility of the tax profession under digitalization and giving you the tools to navigate it and to thrive in it. Another way of looking at it would be digital literacy for tax professionals, knowing what's really going on with technology, digitalization, and transformation. Engaging and building a connection with the technology. So it actually, in the end, helps redefine who you are and even changes the way you think about yourself. If you think that's far-fetched, well, think about Excel. Excel wasn't always around, right? But now it's really changed things, and it's a fabulous tool. And a lot of people identify themselves by their Excel skills. In the new digital world with true data platforms, though, you can multiply that by 10, 100. But only after a journey. This is just the start. There is more coming down the line on this, and Steve mentioned that with the belt system, which we are part of, by the way. And we're offering support plans. Like I say, it's part of a journey, but you have to start with this or start with a Smart Tax Technology program to make sure that we're actually talking the same language when we support you down the line. But overall, this is going mainstream this year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it's a great place to be. So I suggest build your digital IQ, build your digital human capital, be at the vanguard of the post-IT tax world, and join us. And if you're a senior person, we're more than happy to talk about having a team come along this journey with us and cross the techno chasm. And just be someone or a team who just gets it when it comes to technology, and fight fire with fire. So fight the digital fire that is engulfing our industry with the fire of the right digital mindset and understanding and tools and capabilities. Our future is a digital one. It's now our destination, and that in the end is taxological. The key point here, how do we get started? So there is a link to where you can go and sign up right now. After you've signed up and paid with a credit card, after that, you can pick which date you want to start, because you're the very first people to see this. There's no limits at the moment. When the weeks do fill up and we get to 20 people, then we will close them off, but there's no danger of that right now. So after you pay, you can go and pick which week you want to start, which night of the week you want to do the sessions. Alternatively, you can visit the coffee tables right after this presentation, where Anne-Marie and Dora will be there to answer your questions. And there is several of the graduates of the Smart Text Technology program around, and myself, and at least make sure you ask for one of our guides for the community book camp, so you've got that as a reference for you. If you want to learn more about Smart Tax Technology itself, because I didn't have time to talk much about that there's a link on that one as well. But the important thing is to act now. And at that, I'd like to say thank you very much. And is there any questions?
I'm checking.
Actually, I have one more point I want to mention. So Steve introduced the belt system earlier. Steve and I are aligned on this, and we've been working together on this for actually more than a couple of years now. Just to say that, if you like, the Smart Tax Technology program is a bit of a jump start into the belt system. So depending on your experience. So if you've already got some experience of trying to deal with the technology world, and you've got a few years behind your back, so like Steve said, it's about your experience, then the Smart Tax Technology is the right way in. If you're a little bit newer to this, and you don't have necessarily that same level of in-house experience, or you're straight out of university or whatever it is, then the belt system would probably make more sense to you. But if you have questions on that, please ask at the coffee tables and we can clear that up for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. I was going to mention the same thing, actually. You are welcome to the tables, because we have now a break and kind of lunch break also, we thought. But please feel free to take places on the tables. We will be, you will be seeing the name of the company, like Popo SNI, and we will be waiting for you there. Thank you, and see you then after the break. And we will actually continue with Ms. Ksenia Sipek, and who is the actually tax expert for the tax administration of the Republic of Croatia. We will be waiting for you to see again in the second round. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi again, everybody. We continue with the second part. I hope you enjoyed the first part, and you had also a chance for making fruitful conversation with other attendees. And now I would like actually welcome our other important speaker, Ms. Ksenia Sipek, who is the head of risk analysis for the tax administration of the Republic of Croatia. Hi, Ksenia, welcome.
Hi, thank you very much for having me here today. So it's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you joining. So you will talk about task risk analysis, actually, and
Yes.
you will give some examples. I leave this stage to you. See you then at the end of your speech.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So first I will upload my presentation. I think everything will be okay because I'm not in Croatia right now. But I think that that you all hear me, and we can start. So it's my pleasure today to be with you, because I think it's very important topics, and it's very important to share the knowledge between all the people who are dealing with taxes, and not only with taxes, with new technologies and digitalization. So I'm always interested in IT sector, so and developments of new technologies. So we will see how that works very short and briefly in the field of risk analysis. So for the beginning, the strategic goals of the tax administration. This is a general overview for, I will say, all tax administration around the world. There are some of them. Absolutely legal certainty, uniform procedures, increase of tax compliance, prevention of non-tax compliance, encouraging the use of methods and tools for increasing tax compliance, timely detection and suppression of the tax frauds, timely exchange of information, high level of digitalization, optimization of using repression instruments as a tax audit and enforcement. Tax audit is one of the most expensive instrument in the tax administration. So it should be very used for the high-risk taxpayers. Analyzing the possibilities of using new technologies as a blockchain, DLT, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and of course, robotics. So what is the challenges for the tax authorities? So there is some, there is more, but there is some. Absolutely new business models as a sharing, collaborative, gig economy, and many more. So we are now living in the digital evolution, and many things are going, and many business activities are actually in the virtual world. So we have to be very cautious about that and follow that. So the increasing use of cryptocurrencies, developing of CBDC and crypto assets markets regulation is something that tax authorities have to have in mind all the time. So this is something that that's my opinion, will not stop tomorrow, and that is something that is really important for our future work.
Ksenia, sorry to interrupt you, but we are only seeing the cover page of the presentation. Maybe
I'm sorry, but I see my. I will try again, but I see my.
We can also do for you.
I think we have the presentation.
Yeah, we have the presentation.
If you allow us, we can also directly share.
Yes, you can, but do you see now? Because I see my.
Yeah, let's try.
No, we don't see. No, we don't see.
You just see the first slide.
No, not I don't see at all.
Because I see everything, so I don't know what is happening. So if you like to share, it's not the problem. But for me, it's everything.
Yeah, I am sharing it right now.
Okay, if you like, but so.
Yeah.
No, now we see. Yeah, great.
Okay, so will you move the slides or?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm talking about that, and this is the next slide. If you hearing me, if you heard me, so I'm talking about that. So we can go to the next slide. So this is the main challenges, and I stopped with crypto assets market regulations. I think that tax administration really should be very pay attention on that, because this is something that that will be much more in the future. That's my opinion. So if we look at the effort of the European Commission, so this MiCA regulation, that is something that tax administration should really take care about. Increasing the transparency and trust of taxpayers in the tax administration. This is point number one. So we have to build the trust. If the trust not exists, it will be many more taxpayers in the field of non-compliant. The need of increasing of online services by taxpayers. So this is something that many tax administration really improving today, and especially when the global pandemic started, and digitalization and these electronic services and communication, digital communication with the taxpayers, that we work and do our work really nice. if we have this situation as COVID-19 10 years before, it will be much harder. So, but we have to be aware that more sophisticated, speedy, and cross-border tax frauds today happening actually in the real time. So when someone said that, tax administration need more and more real-time data and real-time information, we have to know that actually many tax frauds happening right now in the real time. A reduction of the time frame regarding the exchange of information between countries is very important thing. So we see that in the COVID pandemic, in the health field, how important it is to sharing the information in the real time. So I think that for stopping the fraud and to increase the compliance also, we have to share information much more, I should say, faster than now. Even we have automation exchange of information in the field of direct taxes. I think that we can be better in that field. So it's we spend a lot of time to match the data, so it's a wasting of time. So I think that this exchange of information should be in the real time and should be in the way that we can detect the person of the company or any taxpayers in very short time. Increase of quantity, the data, and collected the data in the real time. I was talking about that, so it's very important. Security, quality, and transparency of data. So nobody, especially tax administration, who has every tax administration has a really large and huge amount of the data in data warehouse. Don't want this kind of trash in, trash out. So quality of data and of course security of data are very important. And of course challenges COVID-19 global pandemic. It's turn over all the things. So for example, we had to work from home. This is not something that is very close to the state administration, but we did it, and digitalization actually helped us in that. So we can move on to another slide. So this is the different measures and tools for these challenges. So of course, legal frame from taxation, from new business models, from cryptocurrencies, including taxation, legal measures, and e-services for increasing transparency. One of these is compliance tax risk management. So we will talk about that today. Very good tool is advanced analytics, predictive and prescriptive. So how to stop the risks before the risk is happen. Data management has some main rules. Timely exchange of information, or better yet, direct access to the information. So we have to think about that. So everything is possible there, because all tax administration all around the world actually work the same job. So why not? And of course, very important, using of advantages of the new technologies in tax matter, digitalization and automatization. This is some measures and tools that we can help our challenges what is happening right now. So we can move to another slide. So compliance risk management system scores behavior of taxpayers. How identifies gradations of risky behavior, and why enables mass-based detection of types of risky behavior, increases taxpayers' trust in the tax administration, increases compliance with tax laws, establishes uniform procedures, and focuses on risky taxpayers. That's a really important things. So we can move on. So benefits from the risk management is classification of taxpayers in predefined risk categories based on their behavior, recognizing the taxpayers who have preference to risk through a process of developing predictive analytics, automated process of VAT refund and other automations, optimization of audit capacity to the most risky taxpayers, focus on monitoring of specific risky areas, transparency of selection of taxpayers for external audit. So that's very important. So how to build to trust to the tax administration. So the system work on that, not just the person. reducing internal risks. So if someone doesn't do what should do according to the law in the state institution, that could be internal risk, and that could be very easy to find. And of course, other benefits. So we can move on. So this is Croatian example, compliance risk management. So Croatia introduced this system in 2016. We have taxpayers risk level, and it's about based on CRMS results. So it will be some really compliant, fully compliant taxpayer, or medium risky, or high risky. So that's whole in the risk management system. And of course, all of these results have specific measures. And if the taxpayer is fully compliant, there is no specific measure. So tax administration will not spend the time on this taxpayer. And of course, this is good because we don't have so many resources, any tax administration. So why spend the time on the taxpayers who are compliant? We will monitoring on partner base. And we assured automatic VAT refund so far for VAT, no any manual work of employees of tax administration. So this is really fully automatic process. So if the taxpayer is less compliant, so we have specific prescribed uniform measures by tax officials, and these measures are available on the screen of the employees who are dealing with that. So she or he did not have obligation to read something in paper, so everything is on the screen, and all of them have the same procedures. So if you are going anywhere in Croatia, you will have the same procedures if the risk is the same. So these uniform procedures measures are very important for the tax administration. So this is also for building the trust in the tax administration and to minimize the human errors, I will say that. So non-compliant, but the taxpayers who are in some kind of medium score, also we have prescribed uniform measures by tax officials, but non-compliant, but this is really not a large number of the taxpayers. So the most taxpayers are compliant. And this number of non-compliant taxpayers who are really for tax audit, they are going to the tax auditors, and of course, the departments in the tax audit will check again. Did they have any other informations outside the scope of the risk management system? It is not usual, but could be. So system is work what is in the data warehouse. So if you don't have this information, it will be not in the data warehouse, and maybe auditors have. So, and it's very important, these communications between tax officials and tax audit. So I put some arrows here, so how this flow of information are going. So the whole process are really in the high level of automatization, and actually this digital era gave us this opportunity to do that. So we have automatic VAT refund since 2018, and it works very well in whole Croatia. So if we have deadline for a VAT refund 30 days or plus 90 days according to the VAT law, if the audit is involved, then we have to everything or give some rulings. Otherwise, otherwise the VAT refund will be in the deadlines prescribed by law, will be on the account of the taxpayers, and I think that's good. So we have to move on to another slide. So this is data warehouse. So you can see from what different sources we collect the information for the data warehouse of tax administration. So we exchange information between the countries. So data scraping, internal data, so third-party data. So it's a many sources, but as I said, this is the main rules as a quality of data, and we don't use, and I think that's my opinion, that data shouldn't be used just for collecting. This is administrative burden of the taxpayers. All the data that any tax administration has in the data warehouse should be used, because just collecting the data and have a data in the data warehouse is the administrative burden, and also is very costly for the tax authorities. So we can move on to another slide. So this is automatic VAT refund, one of the solution. So should be another solutions, but this is a fully automatic process which are based on the risk management system. So we have we start with VAT return. So why? Because we need the data, and these data are going, of course, to the data warehouse. And risk management system actually in special composite models will determine the taxpayer's level of risk. Composite models can be compared with each other. What is important here that if you have many risks, I don't know, 500, 600, 700 risks, and you put the taxpayers for all kinds of taxes, and you put the taxpayers in all these risks to get some score, this score will be not a real score. It's much better to go to the special composite models for every kind of taxes, and inside these taxes, special composite models for special things. For example, this is the special risks for the tax refund, VAT tax refund, for, I don't know, transfer pricing, for local taxes. So, and when for new companies, for example, new taxpayers. So if we put taxpayers in these special composite models, it could be special composite models for the missing traders, conduits, brokers, dubious. So if we put taxpayers in these composite models, in these special risks, the score will be much more realistic. So so I think that this is important part of risk management system. And of course, in the application of VAT refund in the tax administration, there will be visible riskness of the taxpayers and the right to automatic VAT refund. If the right is there, completely, fully compliant taxpayers, so the digital payment of the VAT taxpayers who, based on the established level of risk, are entitled to an automatic VAT refund, and VAT refunds will be paid digitally to their account without any human work in the entire process. That means also for the tax authorities that we have another time to dealing with other things which are very important work in the tax administration, to be focused, for example, how to be good service for the taxpayers. I mean, service according to the law. So this system gave us more time for our another tasks. And in another thing, the possibility of the errors in this system is something is completely automatic. Is there is no human errors. It could be, of course, in the system, but we do some, of course, evaluation of the system all the time. So this is minimizing human error in this one of the solution. So this solution could be even shorter. For example, if we dealing with the B2B invoices, then we will not start with the VAT return, and all the process will be including one more step, and that will be calculation from the tax administration. So this VAT return will be in the past. So that's my opinion. So we can move on. So at the end of my presentation, I will really emphasize how I see the tax system of new digital era in these four corners, which are very important for all systems. First is the simplicity. So we need simplicity in procedures, especially in the legislation, in tax collection. So the tax system should be easily applicable. If it's not, if it's too complex, we will have a lot of taxpayers in the field of non-compliant, not because they are fraudster, because they are just cannot manage with this whole legislation. So using of technology, using the benefits of new technologies, digitalization and automatization of tax procedures is imperative for any tax administration today. So this is not a question yes or no. This is something that we have to offer to the taxpayers. And from other side, our system, our tax procedures will be faster, will be more transparent, will be without human errors. So that's very important. And of course, legislation and technology must be compatible. So that is not acceptable anymore that we have a technology in one hand and legislation in another hand, and they are not compatible. This is a really very costly thing. So today I would like to say, and I always said that today, because I work in legislation for, I don't know, almost 20 years. So to write the law or bylaw or something like that, this is not today only for the people who are lawyers or economists. This is the people from IT sector has to be involved and give us the best solution to minimize the next corner, which is less administrative burden for the taxpayers. And this is whole procedure, simplicity, technology, and less administrative burden. We have to take care that administrative burden is something that should be more or less and less. And finally, the result of all of this less administrative burden could be a reasonable level of tax compliance. So if the level of compliance is a wall that taxpayers find difficult and expensive to achieve, the results is their escape into non-compliance. So simplicity, technology, and reduced administrative burden should ensure a reasonable level of compliance. If our legislation is really too heavy for compliance, we will have a lot of so thank you very much. This is my last slide, and I hope that maybe some of this will be useful for you. So thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you, Ksenia. Actually, before starting the panel that we have, before the discussion, we have one question. What is the idea of implementing a CBDC, and how would the process look? Would the tax authority prepare the tax return on behalf of the taxpayer by analyzing the blockchain?
Well, we have right now the pre-filing for income tax. The many countries has that. So if we are talking about the pre-filing of VAT, this is, of course, this is possible, and I think the some tax administration have that. So this is not something that we shouldn't do. And of course, if you put the blockchain, this is my opinion, if we put blockchain under this as a base, it will be, I think this is very good step.
Mm-hmm.
This is my opinion. About the CBDC, this is something that is really actual. So we see digital euro, digital yuan. So how far this thing going on? So of course, tax administration has to be involved and monitoring that, because I will not say that will be taxable. This is the digital currency, but we have to know that this is happening around us.
Exactly. We have one more message, very interesting. Thank you, Mr. Wellner is writing. Is your opinion commonly shared between all EU member states, and what is the calendar of the EU Commission in relation to this?
In the relation with what? In relation?
The question is, if your opinion is shared between all
Yes.
the EU member states and the calendar of EU Commission, actually.
So I think this is my presentation, but when I talk with my colleagues from all the member states of the European Union and the people who works in tax administration, so we get, and when we read some articles and some books, so we see that we mostly have the same goals, And if we see, for example, Croatia is the member state of the European Union, and we are in the partnership of the in the European blockchain partnership, for example. So we see that how important is new technology. So we have right now digital agenda. So this is some things that are really common. Common between us. I will say that. I cannot say everybody think the same, but I think that this is some logical goals. So why not? So these strategic goals, if we like and would like to have compliant experts, we have to do that. So why not? So I think that we are moving in that way. Yeah, that's my opinion.
That's good that we will have an alignment and common direction, let's say. Thank you. I'm checking. There is, I think, one more question. No, okay, just thank you messages we are getting. And also on behalf of SNI team, we thank you, Ksenia. But we don't leave you. As you know, now we will jump to panel discussion. We are ending this session. However, all of the attendees are invited also for the panel part. See you there in minutes.
Thank you very much, and thank you, audience,
Ksenia.
especially.
Okay. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to our panel discussion with all the speakers here. I would like to invite them turn on also their cam. Okay, we are on available. Now, in this session, we have also a new guest. Actually, SNI partner and CCO Rıdvan has joined us among the speakers. Hi, Rıdvan, welcome.
Hi, Hood. Thank you. Welcome, everyone.
In this special panel discussion, we will be talking about the future of tax digitalization in all aspects. We brought up some questions which I assume it is worth to discuss all together. However, I would like also the attendees to please write the questions or comments or the discussion points you would like to raise here so that we can deep dive discuss. Actually, before jumping into the detail, maybe one of you would like to talk about what is next in the roadmap, like what is awaiting us in terms of these reporting issues. How do you think the e-invoicing is gonna be developing, especially in Europe, also just in a nutshell in other regions, countries? I think Rıdvan, better you get the question firstly.
Yeah. Actually, for the near future, I can say that as we always talk about the new upcoming regulation, as you might know, currently Poland start to mandate the e-invoice maybe for the first year. I mean, starting of this year, it's voluntary. And it will be mandatory in 2023, starting of 2023. And, again, within this year, Serbia will make the e-invoice mandatory. Maybe they will divide to the phases, like for the first phase, G2B and inbound B2B. And finally, at starting of 2023, again, all the B2B, B2C, and B2G invoice will be mandatory in Serbia. Slovakia is working on a regulation that will make the e-invoice mandatory again. And I think it will be again starting at the 1st of January 2023. For Romania, after the SAFTI implementation, they will quickly jump to the e-invoicing site as well. And for some critical goods or invoicing of that goods, it will start at July 2022 and will be mandatory for all the invoices in the starting of 2023 or in the mid of 1st of July 2023. again, Spain start to talk about an online or a clearance model for the e-invoicing after successful SI implementation in 2017. Now, most probably in 2023 or 2024, Spain will make the e-invoice mandatory, maybe to make a real-time invoicing like a clearance model. And for Belgium, it will be mandatory for now. Maybe it will be postponed, I don't know. But for now, it seems that it will be mandatory in July 2023. And as Bruno and Lucien mentioned, that France e-invoice will be mandatory July 2024. And for Germany as well, the new government just last year they released that they will quickly implement the e-invoicing, but still there is no any detail, even for technical side or for the regulatory side. These are the updates or the upcoming regulation that we expect for the next 2 or 3 years in Europe. Once we talk about the Gulf countries or Middle East, as you know, Saudi Arabia start to implement the e-invoice for the first phase last year, and now the second phase, which will make the system more clear, more clearance model for Saudi Arabia. It will be mandatory at the 1st of January 2023 again. And United Arab Emirates is working on a regulation, but there is no any details when it will be mandatory. Most probably it will be mandatory within 2023. And Jordan is also working on the e-invoicing system, and I think it will be mandatory in 2023 as well. Again, for the Asia Pacific side, currently, in Indonesia and Taiwan, the invoicing is mandatory, and in Vietnam, it will be mandatory this year, July 2022, and Philippines and Thailand are also working on a regulation. For Philippines, I think it will be mandatory again on 2023. For Thailand, I think it was last year, the government released their regulation and they said that it will be mandatory. The invoicing will be mandatory in July 2022, but most probably it will be postponed because there is no any update yet, since we have just 3 months until the obligation date. And China is also working on an invoice regulation, and most probably it will be mandatory within 2023. For Austria and New Zealand, now they are using PEPL standard for the XML and for the communication. Currently, B2G invoicing is mandatory for Australia and New Zealand, and for B2B and B2C. Again, they are working on a regulation, but again, there is no any date for the obligation.
Thank you, Ridwan. Actually, also we get a comment like getting the dates for each country on a slide. I will ask the team to coordinate while sending this recording and presentations. They will share with you the roadmap of SNI so that you see on a timetable what's coming when, to get an idea of the regulation dates. Thank you, Redwan. Actually, after listening to you, I will come up again the same discussion point, which is popping up, being honest, in each and every panel or webinar, about having that Europe has different regimes, what we are following now. Is there any, maybe also Ksenia would like to add a couple of words, but is there any like light at the end of the tunnel to have something harmonized in the long run? Ksenia, is it you are muted? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you ask me, I really hope so, because VAT, this I think it's really nice tax to be really harmonized fully. So if you look at the VAT return, for example, or especially if we are talking about e-invoicing, so we have in directive, I don't know, 15 points that should be in the invoice. So I think that some kind of harmonization will be really nice to achieve all around the world. So I am for that. Actually, it's really one of my point, a less administrative burden of the taxpayers, and it easier to work. But if we are talking about business to business, so right now I think that large companies especially have the B2B between them. So the main question is how to collect from the side of the tax administration. But as I said, when we are talking about the mandatory e-invoicing, which started with Italy, so we have to be very careful today, for example, about the costs of this, especially for the taxpayers, but including the tax administration also. So it's very important thing when you put in force something new. For example, in Croatia, we have B2C fiscalization from 2013. But it was really great project because we put some kind of software in any cash register. So you can have your cash register, and you shouldn't and you shouldn't remove this cash register and for new ones. So you just put software in that. So this is actually was a really good way how to minimize the cost. So the same will be with the mandatory invoicing. I think that we have to really be care about that. So now you are in mute.
Thank you for the kind warning, Xenia. Actually, I was going to ask, is Lucien here? I don't see his cam open, switched on. However, also maybe he would like add a couple of words about the issue, as the France is also following something totally different, I would call. But I don't see Bruno and Lucien in the panelists. Okay, maybe they join later and add a couple of words. And actually, I would like to ask also the impacts of all these digital transformation and e-invoice on the organizations. Maybe see if that could be something, at least to start by you for the discussion.
I think the challenge of data and data cycles is, I think, of the highest priority within in-house tax departments. If I say that a lot of the in-house tax departments I'm working together with spend 50-60% of their time collecting data, which is required by the tax authorities, then we're not doing a good thing. We're not doing a good thing from the interaction between the tax department, maybe with their finance and IT people, so they get more automated feed of the relevant data for taxes. And tax data is always a little bit deeper, has more attributes than finance data, so it's always a little bit challenging for in-house tax people to get the all data, which on the other side the tax authorities are asking for. So Xenia, your point is very valid, I think, on getting a universal standard, and I think this EU consultation period on seeing whether the EU should step in for an e-invoice standard, a little bit like what, and I was a little bit surprised that the first standard the OECD has created was for CBCR. I would see that as a good reference point for the EU, for example, to take that further for VAT purposes. I think you and me share the same view. The biggest challenge if you don't. You get into the same situation we had in Europe on chargers for mobile phones. It took 20 years to get the standard harmonized. And I would say if you want to make in Brussels Europe attractive for foreign investors, don't do it on a country by country base, but and take the charger of mobile phones as your simple example, where everyone know that those 20 years were no good for anyone, including the providers of those mobile phones. So on the data feed, I think the question was raised by me a few times to tax authorities as well as to multinationals. How much data are you collecting, and how much data are you putting in forms, and how much of that data does overlap? Well, the answer is by now that between 20 to 50% of the data overlaps. So basically means you run a SAFT, you run a CBCR. I'm working on a few projects where through tax accounting, we are filling the CBCR tables as well as the Pillar 2 reporting tables, which kick in not too long from now. And what I see happening is there's this abundance of in-house troops who get the same data, clean the same data, but fill it in another form and send it to another department with the tax authorities. And those tax authorities departments don't even talk to each other. So this requires, and I know Jeffrey Owens has indicated already in a previous panel, that the OECD has as a next ambition after Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 to also go into a major project to digitally transform the workflows at the level of the tax authorities. And I sincerely hope they are going to take this as a serious ambition, that if I have a simple spreadsheet with 90 cells of data, if I throw it over the fence to the tax authorities through a digital mailbox, I only have to do that once. And I think that's a little bit a difficulty, because with some tax authorities, Xenia, you probably recognize that this type of decision making on what to do is policy driven, and therefore with the Ministry of Finance, while other tax authorities say, oh, but really you're talking about data, and that means application of a law. That means it's with the tax inspector in terms of what that person wants. So there's a whole different grade of interests and stakeholders which still in that digital transformation process the tax authorities need to go through, which need to be aligned to get to avoid the mobile charger dilemma of 20 years.
Thank you, Steve. If anybody would like to add something, I have a message here. I would like to let you know that sorry, the message is from internal. I have one more question. So many things are happening. We discussed just recently, Ridwan counted everything. And thinking of the multinational companies, I see also a couple of names on the attendee list representing multinational companies. What do you think these are the common practical problems faced by those companies while implementing all these different invoicing and reporting technologies?
Should I start, or someone else would like to start?
That would be perfect, Ridwan, maybe, and others follow you.
Yeah. Okay, then maybe I can talk about some experience from my project management side a few years ago. The first problem was always for the companies. This kind of new regulations or new obligations are always seems very scary for all the users, because currently they are using some paper invoice, and they upload some report to the tax authorities, and they don't know how can proceed all these kind of new technologies or new report types, and they want to be sure that the invoice successfully submitted to the government or to the recipient part for the customer, I can say. So I can say that the most common problem is to let the user to know that it's a very common issue, or this new technology will not change their life, and everything will be same as the current life. The only thing, they will not use any paper, and everything will be electronically. And for the installation part, I think maybe not. It was not a common problem for the previous years. I mean, for a few years ago, but currently we are talking about maybe more than 30 countries, and especially for the multinationals which are using one client ERP systems, it is difficult to maybe differentiate all the countries or the country keys, etc. So I can say currently the most common issue is to differentiate the country regulation and the country rules in their one client ERP systems.
Okay, and I'd like, can I add to that comment
Please,
as well?
please, Jeff.
I think Ridvan raises a really interesting point about, you do it by paper in the past, and you're going to do it in a digital automated fashion going forward, but it doesn't really change. And I think that's kind of where we are with the tax authorities at the moment. At the moment, they're just happy to collect information electronically. They're asking for more with e-invoicing and things like that. But at the moment, they're really just collecting information. We have just started to see with some tax authorities, and I think the Spanish lead the line here, in that they're now starting to they've collected data, and now they're starting to try and understand the data and what it means. And that's the next phase, and that's the more interesting one. And when I mentioned in my talk, the couple of examples where they have actually asked people to stop paying their vendors, that's because they're now trying to read the data, not just collect it. And that's where the danger comes in. So leading back to the first question, saying, what's the impact of digital transformation and all this e-invoicing on organizations? This is where the tax function needs to go in future. They actually need to really understand what's in that data. And right today, we all know that garbage in, garbage out is pandemic. And we all know now over the last couple of years what the word pandemic means. It's everywhere. And that situation is really not going to suffice going forward. It's going to reach a point where you're not going to be able to get away with garbage in, garbage out anymore. And that really is, if there's a single challenge that kind of underpins all the other challenges, in my mind, that's the one. And the sooner you can start that journey, the better, because it's going to take some time to get there.
If I can add something on that.
Please,
So I really carefully listen, Mr. Steve and Mr. Jeff. So first of all, the data will come in tax administration once. That's the rule. This is the rule which is really applicable in many tax administration right now. This is not something that nobody used. So there is the law provisions, for example, that we have to exchange information between domestic institutions, but also we exchange information with cross-border institutions. Of course, we have to do more. That's true. when we are talking about the communications with the taxpayers, many tax administration today develop the dual communications, so communications online with the taxpayers. Also, many of the documentation, especially for the large multinationals, come really electronically in the tax administration. I think in Croatia more than 90%. So it is not on paper anymore. But of course, it is always very tricky situation. So if you change from the paper to the electronically and the rest is the same, that's the problem. So so I emphasize that we have to move on in a way that we have to make analysis. So only to have the data is nothing. So if you not compare this data, if you don't know what this data means, that's the problem. So actually you collect something which is not, it is for nothing. So but actually the legislation here is very important. So everything starts from the legislation. If we put in legislation that we need 28,000 data, we will need 28,000 data. So everything starts from that. So if we said no, we don't need that, and if we really need for some analysis, we will collect from I don't know other institutions, and taxpayers should give us just I don't know 5 data or 5 information. So this is the way forward. If we stop here, but I think that we actually move forward everywhere in every tax administration. So this I hope so, that many tax administrations have tax risk analysis. So many tax administrations work on how to increase the compliance, so how to communicate between themselves. So we have today, I don't know, DAC 1 to DAC 8 to exchange of information. So I think that we move on this in this field, and but we have to have in mind that administrative burden without purpose is a very danger game. So for both sides.
I think very good point and hint, Ksenia. Thank you.
Yeah, how can I
Please. Please.
compliment Ksenia on what she said? Just a few examples. Brazil basically looks over your shoulder if you do a journal entry. The tax authorities already see the journal entry while you're typing it. So that's just an illustration. The example I gave in China, where I file a fairly complex direct tax form and report called transfer pricing, I get an information data request in 5 hours. Or the example, which is a little bit less, how to say it, was less timely in that sense, but the US, the IRS, so the tax authorities in the US collected all information on country by country reporting and basically analyzed all that data. They even put the data anonymized on the internet, so you could actually analyze and you could see how much of the overseas profits are planted in what locations and what the tax rate of those locations is. So it immediately creates this high degree of transparency to all parties across the globe. And I think if the EU starts thinking along those lines, I think they may make the right mind shift, as Ksenia already said, I think in her presentation. So that's sort of a nice target. Call it the Tax Vision 2025 for tax authorities.
I fully agree with you. That's really great examples. So if we are talking about transparency, I always think about, for example, about tax risk analysis. Should we open the risks that you as a taxpayers every time can have access to the risks and see if the risks, which risks are triggered for you? Usually the tax administrations thinks that it is a legend that if we open the risks transparently to the taxpayers, it is the fear of aggressive tax planning. So I don't agree with that. I will, for example, my opinion is if we are much more transparent and open, taxpayers will react. If somebody is in criminal area, they will stay there if you open that or not. So I think that this is a good examples. But actually, if we are talking about the data in the real time, for example, many countries and of course the blockchain give us this opportunity to, and many other technologies that we have the data in the real time. We have to know that the tax frauds happening today in the real time. And third, my point will be, as Mr. Steve said in his examples, that tax authorities need education. So education at all levels. So from the officials to the general director. So in all level, we have to be educated what we are doing. So if you are come to the tax administration, for example, as a large multinationals, you want to speak with the person who knows what is going on. So not some tax auditor which is not involved in that. So we need continuously education. So I have to say that in Croatian tax administration, we really have educations in all levels. And this is the good point, but this is not something overnight. So I think this is very helpful to speak with the people as you today and participants to see what we can improve actually to be in this partner relationship with the taxpayer.
Exactly, Xenia, and I think the talks I'm having with the professors in Vienna University, obviously they are enhancing training of tax authorities professionals as well as in-house tax professionals, and create the same reference point, so it's easier to come up with a common solution which works from both ends, and then it's quite obvious there's a benefit for both parties involved.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes.
Okay, sorry, my micro was again turned off. So I would like also to ask Jeff about the skill set of the tax function professionals, because we see now that tough days are waiting for them. I would like to emphasize. So, what would you advise them to build as a skill set for them to handle those things easily?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, I could repeat my presentation here, to be honest, and just say they need to understand a little bit more about the digital world. It is different. It's not something that you understand without a bit of extra help. That's been our experience of the last 20 years out there, of being in the tax technology area and basically looking at most people struggle. It's time for them really to learn to ask the question why they are struggling, and most people still are. And the end result of that, like I said, is garbage in, garbage out. People have really got to start asking the question, how do we solve that? And I'm not talking about technical answers here. Really, at this point, I'd like to come back and say, Stave's Vision 2025. People need to have a Vision 2025, absolutely. But what's going to be in it? Let's ask the question. Let's have the conversation first. It may not be what you think it is. And for most people, it'll be something different than they think it is. They need to be talking to the right people first who've thought about this, and just explore the area. We're into discover, explore, learn here. It's not technology data. It's not turnkey. It's not plug and play. You can't buy an off the shelf solution. It involves you as a person. It involves your leadership. It involves your corporate culture. So there's a real journey here for in-house tax professionals, especially, but tax authorities, their advisors, the consultants, everybody's affected in this. They've got to start thinking about it differently. It's getting more and more difficult to differentiate tax from the technology that underpins it now. More and more of it sits on a digital platform. So you've just got to understand that space. So I know I've talked in very general terms here, but that's where we try to come from with taxology, is say, we're not going to try and teach you SQL, for example, like how to query a database. We're not going to try and teach you XML, which is the common language that you communicate with the tax authorities electronically. Those are useful pieces to know, but first of all, you've got to understand the space and how it works so that you can navigate, make it work for you, and you can build the skills around you that you need. That for me would be the main thing. Get that Vision 2025 in place.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, also your trainings are also tailor-made in that manner. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
I realize you kind of threw that straight in my lap there, you know, but at risk of like promoting, you know, what we do. But that is genuinely what we have found over the last 2 decades, that is the most important thing that can make the difference for the in-house tax professional.
Exactly. I agree. I'm just checking if we have any questions from the audience. I would be interested to hear more how the tax authority plans to use and implement blockchain technologies. Ksenia, do you suggest anything, how to follow the details, etc.?
So this is the very hot topic. Every tax administration, I'm sure today, most of them piloting, analyzing, has some projects in the field of the blockchain. Blockchain actually is not for the tax purposes a solution for everything. So we see the blockchain, for example, in the field of VAT, even in the field of transfer pricing, in the salaries. So lots of fields could be covered with the blockchain technology. I can say that tax administration are really monitoring that. And as said, for example, in European Union, there is a European blockchain partnership. Many tax administration work on that and has some pilot projects and something like that. And for example, but we have one example that this really works. So, for example, I think Mr. Ridwan mentioned Thailand. So in Thailand, we have VFT tourist return on blockchain technology, and it works. So this is not a pilot project. So I think that, and if we see in this, for example, in this MiCA regulation, DLT pilot regime is involved, then blockchain really has potential to bring us to the better work in the tax administration and the better work for the taxpayers. But also we have to be very careful that this is not something that we cannot handle or something like that. So as I said before, it's very important that tax administration within or outsourcing work with the experts in the IT sector. And right now, I think that if you look at all of these pilot projects and analysis in the tax administration, that blockchain, and if we look at in this these results of the Thailand, I think that will be results in this field. So I think that blockchain is one of things that we have to monitor very closely and piloting in many different projects. But as I said, this is not solution for everything. So, but a lot of field of taxes could be covered with that. So we will see. But I hope we will have it.
Yeah, Ksenia, just a few health warnings here from my end. Blockchain is a decentralized ledger with full transparency to all the parties who sign up to a smarter contract. Are you saying that tax authorities are willing to sign up to that smarter contract? Because if you do, there's a liability issue involved instantly, which typically is what the tax authorities try to keep away. So I'm sort of a believer blockchain in elements of the technology solution could be catered for, but I'm not a true believer blockchain is the future in the exchange of data between taxpayers and tax authorities at this stage. unless the legal relationship between tax authorities and tax authorities will radically change, which I think will at least take 10 years, to be honest.
So, well, this is different opinion. I don't know what will happen really, but I remember in my career that when somebody says, I don't know, 15 or 20 years ago, that some taxpayers will have agreement with tax authorities, I will say, are you sure? So we have today, this is normal process, horizontal monitoring. This is agreement between the taxpayers and the tax authorities. We have today, I don't know, APA. So this is agreement. So I'm not so sure that a smart contract is so far from the tax authorities.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point.
We will see. So,
fair point.
But we will see. So some things before, I don't know, 10 years before, it was really, we will be we couldn't think that we will have to work from home. This is not normal for tax authorities. We have to have access to our data, to the taxpayers, to our legislation, to this, and today is normal. So everything is possible, but blockchain has some characteristics that could be useful for tax authorities. Maybe, of course, maybe you are completely right. Its characteristics is maybe right now should be modified for the tax authorities. That is question, and of course this is legal questions. I agree with you. That's for sure. But I will say maybe this is the open for us. So look at the Thailand and the VAT tourist return. So everything is possible. So I will say that. So
Okay.
I will start with that. I don't know, but I hope that something like that may be so much. So we will have robotics, artificial intelligence. So what we will say. So today we say, for example, if you look at from the text perspective, we will say, okay, this is not robot, this is machine. But actually, I saw on television, I don't know, 2 days or 3 days ago, that some anthropologists testing DNA from, I don't know, some old skeleton and put that in machine. And this DNA actually has cognitives specific as a human. So what tax authorities will say if something like that start to earn the money? So I don't know. So this is everything is open. So but we have to look really in the future. So
Keep an open mind. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you also for the audience. That was a good question. And we have one more question, I think. Okay, just a comment. Blockchain can be centralized. Look at China and the digital yuan.
Well, the point of this technology is decentralization, but of course the modification also is always possible. So but digital yuan is something else that is digital currency.
And my understanding of the digital one is that it's been put in place by the Chinese authorities, but the uptake amongst the populace is still not. It's not come from, it's not come from the people first. It's been put there by the authorities, and it's not been a huge success so far.
Yeah, I think most probably next year's symposium's topic will be definitely this one. Maybe we should have a separate session just on that topic. It was really good discussions. I'm checking, and it seems there is no more new questions. I would like to thank you, everybody. First of all, to you, all the speakers, and also the attendees for investing time and being with us together during that symposium. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and we will be keeping you updated about the upcoming webinars and sessions. Such as as I mentioned earlier, next week we have the Saudi Arabia webinar about the e-invoicing. It seems we will have a crowded agendas with all these new upcoming e-invoicing mandates. So thank you again, and I hope we keep always in touch, and you can follow for sure our social media accounts and LinkedIn. Thank you again.
Well, the virtual coffee tables are still going to be open for a few more minutes, right? Ahu?
Sure.
Yep.
You are right. Good.
We're going to be
Yes,
there. We're going to be there at our
yeah.
tables.
Yeah.
For anybody who's not sure how it works, as soon as this session closed down, you automatically go to the networking lounge. You see tables with chairs. Just pick a table, pick a chair, click on it, just click on the chair, and you'll be chatting with the people at the table. So be nice to see you there in a minute.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much again.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Ahu.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.